Tonight, the race to rescue in Taiwan after its strongest earthquake in 25 years. Panic and destruction in the streets, collapsed buildings, multiple landslides, and now the aftershocks. Our team is there on the ground. The parents of a Canadian aid worker killed in Gaza speak out.
In my opinion, it was a targeted kill.
Will this deadly incident put future aid at risk? And we are on board a U.S. Army boat as close as you can get to the wreckage in Baltimore.
You can see there's still so much twisted debris that's resting upon the Dolly cargo ship.
A staggering view of the mission ahead in a Canadian exclusive.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. Rescue crews are racing to free the trapped and find the missing in Taiwan after the island was rocked with the most powerful earthquake it's faced in a quarter century. Buildings remain teetering tonight on the brink of collapse. This as at least 9 people are confirmed dead, hundreds more injured, some from the initial force of the earthquake, others from the landslides that followed. So the epicenter of the earthquake struck on the East Coast. That's about 25 kilometers away from the hardest hit city of Hualien. But the tremors were felt throughout the island, including the capital, Taipei. Philippe Leblanc is our correspondent based in Taipei. So Philippe, one of the big concerns right now is the risk of powerful aftershocks. You felt some of them.
Over 130 aftershocks have been registered since yesterday. I've personally felt them, at least 10 of them in Taipei, over 250 kilometers away from the epicenter. And the risk with these aftershocks is that there's no warning. They're quite sudden. And here's how the past 24 hours have unfolded here in Taiwan. Striking Wednesday morning with a force unseen in Taiwan for 25 years, the 7.2 magnitude earthquake brought down buildings. Caused landslides and rattled bridges, leaving dozens either trapped or missing. Rescue crews scrambled to get to them safely. Taiwan's president-elect surveyed the damage in the hard-hit city of Hualien, a popular tourist destination on the east coast of Taiwan, just 25 kilometers from the earthquake's epicenter. He's promising rescue efforts will be the priority. We need to find out how many people are still trapped, he says. Those injured should be given quality medical treatment. Still, people in Taiwan are coming to grips with what just transpired, with staggering sights like this live broadcast rocked by the tremors. Further north in New Taipei, more destruction. This resident says she's mourning the loss of the 60-year-old buildings that collapsed in her neighborhood. We are lucky that no one got hurt here, adds this person. Another piece of good fortune, tsunami warnings from Japan to the Philippines later downgraded and averted. Still, Canada's Prime Minister is offering aid to those who need it.
Canada stands ready to provide support and have reached out to Taiwanese officials. We're also engaging to make sure affected Canadians have the support they need.
Back in Taiwan, officials say the number of victims and the extent of damage remains relatively low for an earthquake of this magnitude. A similar one here a quarter century ago caused nearly 2,500 deaths and over 11,000 injuries.
So, Philippe, we understand some of the rescues happening now are incredibly difficult. Can you walk us through those efforts?
Well, were slowed down overnight because of the risk of aftershocks and because of the risk of landslides. So the priority remains to get to the people that are trapped. And the other priority is to reopen the only highway between the capital, Taipei, and the East Coast. So those are the two main progress we're hoping to see today in Taiwan, Adrian.
All right, Philippe Leblanc in Taipei for us tonight. We're learning more tonight about the Canadian aid worker killed in Gaza, and we're learning it directly from his parents. Jacob Flickinger died when Israeli missiles struck a World Central Kitchen aid convoy Monday. Sarah Levitt spoke with his family.
Jacob Flickinger was a new father, a Canadian veteran. Now his family is working to bring his body home from Gaza.
He believed very strongly that the work he was doing was important, especially in this case, knowing that there was starvation out there.
Flickinger was one of the 7 aid workers killed by a series of Israeli airstrikes on their aid convoy in Gaza on Monday. Born in Saint-Georges, Quebec, to a Quebec mom and an American dad, he spent more than a decade in the Canadian Army, including a tour in Afghanistan. This fall, he decided to use his military training and join the World Central Kitchen to help the nonprofit with logistics and security.
Their convoy was marked, clearly marked, and they were on a well-used humanitarian route. So, in my opinion, it was a targeted kill.
Flickinger's parents say they're mourning, but they're also angry. World Central Kitchen says its aid convoy had just dropped off food supplies in a central Gaza warehouse when it was hit by precision strikes. This, despite coordinating its movements with the Israeli army beforehand and traveling within a deconflicted zone.
We call for a full investigation. Israel needs to respect international humanitarian law.
The strikes also killed an Australian, Polish, and 3 British nationals, as well as a Palestinian, sparking international condemnation. Israel's military says an independent body will investigate.
It was a mistake that followed a misidentification at night during a war in a very complex conditions. It shouldn't have happened.
That's not good enough for Jacob Flickinger's parents.
The people who are suffering now are the innocent on both sides, the civilians. And it's continuing a cycle that will never end unless we make a break with this violence.
The family has set up a fundraising campaign to help Flickinger's wife and 18-month-old son as they adjust to a life without him. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
The destruction of the World Central Kitchen convoy has sent shockwaves through the aid community in Gaza. Chris Brown shows us some groups are halting operations out of fears their staff could be next.
The bodies of the 6 foreign aid workers from World Central Kitchen were escorted out of Gaza Wednesday as hospital staff paid tribute. It hurts to say goodbye to the people who came to help, said Dr. Marwan Al-Hams. Israeli weapons don't differentiate between Canadians, Palestinians, or Americans. The 3-car convoy had pre-cleared its route and shared its location with Israel's military. They were supposed to be safe, but weren't. And their deaths are already having profound consequences. People in Gaza will suffer a lot. They'll sleep without food, said Nihad Abu Quaik, who volunteered for the group, which has now halted its humanitarian work. The United Nations says it will no longer deliver food at night, and another U.S.-led aid group, ANERA, says it has also decided to halt operations.
You're talking about hundreds of thousands of meals provided daily that have stopped.
It says one of its staffers, Musa Shah, was also killed in an Israeli airstrike last month, even though his whereabouts were also shared with Israel's military.
We expect to continue to have to navigate some element of ambiguity, but we also feel there's an obligation here to observe international humanitarian law and ensure protection.
The UK-based group Medical Aid for Palestinians says its teams in Gaza will keep working. It says an Israeli missile struck a staff housing complex even after the military told them they were in a safe zone. So now there's little faith in Israel's promises.
But from our experience, they lacked transparency. The Israeli army and the government were unable or unwilling to properly investigate the serious incident.
Israel has been checking itself every day.
Israel says it's investigating what happened to the aid convoy and claims the attack was unintentional. But in his first interview, the founder of the World Central Kitchen says Israel showed no restraint.
What I know is that we were targeted deliberately, non-stop, until everybody was dead in this convoy.
The Hamas-run health ministry says more than 32,000 Palestinians, including 190 Palestinian aid workers, have been killed in Gaza, but it's the deaths of foreigners that sparked the outrage Israel now faces. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
There's a new development tonight in Canada's car theft crisis. Nearly 600 stolen vehicles destined for legal export have been recovered from the Port of Montreal.
These vehicles were connected to various types of violent vehicle crimes, including carjackings and home invasions.
The recovery was part of a joint operation between police in Quebec and Ontario alongside the Canada Border Services Agency. Most of the cars were stolen from the Greater Toronto area. Police say the vehicles are worth a combined $34.5 million. Former Conservative leader Erin O'Toole says Chinese meddling was to blame for the defeat of up to 9 Tory candidates in the last election. Ashley Burke now with his pointed testimony at the foreign interference inquiry.
The former Conservative leader came with his critique.
In my view, the process failed in this case.
Erin O'Toole told the public inquiry the government should have issued a warning during the last election campaign.
We wanted a caution, a public notice to voters to be wary of information that they were obtaining from social media.
O'Toole said his party had flagged to Canada's task force monitoring foreign interference that falsehoods were spreading on Chinese language social media targeting his party. This partially redacted top-secret document shows that a week before the election, Canada's task force observed what may be a Chinese Communist Party information operation that aims to discourage voters from voting for the Conservative Party, but that examples do not formally cross the threshold as acts of foreign interference. An alert didn't go out.
I do think that was a decision that was incorrect to make.
O'Toole said he believes up to 9 ridings were lost in Metro Vancouver and the GTA because of foreign interference.
The small number of seats would not have impacted the minority government that Canada has right now. But the difference of 2, 3, 5 seats may have allowed me more of a moral justification to remain as leader.
The Prime Minister says those tasked with ensuring the integrity of the past 2 elections concluded the results weren't impacted.
I can understand where someone who lost an election is trying to look for reasons other than themselves why they might have lost an election.
But O'Toole sees it differently.
To suggest that an election is free and fair from foreign interference is not accurate if some people are impacted.
Ashley, you've brought us a lot of testimony over the last few days. There are still dozens of witnesses to come, but are there any early takeaways for you?
Well, Adrian, a key theme that's emerged is testimony that the government shouldn't have been so tight-lipped and that politicians and Canadians being targeted wanted to be warned about any suspicious activity early on, even if security officials didn't have strong evidence of foreign interference, which documents say is difficult to prove. Next, we'll hear from security officials themselves and the Prime Minister next week.
All right, Ashley Burke in Ottawa. We'll be watching. Another multi-billion-dollar promise tonight from the Prime Minister ahead of the upcoming federal budget. He announced there will be an extra $15 billion for apartment construction loans.
We are there to be partners with the most ambitious jurisdictions in the country.
The top-up would bring the fund to $55 billion and would support housing plans from provinces and territories that meet conditions, including building affordable rental units. Well, tonight, we can take you even closer to the colossal wreckage in Baltimore after that bridge collapse. CBC News gained exclusive Canadian access and got a first-hand look. Katie Simpson shows us the complicated cleanup.
The rain and wind eased just enough, making it safe to venture out. On board a U.S. Army Corps of Engineers boat bound for the Baltimore Harbor cleanup.
Welcome aboard the Catlin, everybody. We're the Army Corps of Engineers vessel.
It's a short ride, maybe 15 minutes or so, before we're close enough for the wreckage to come into focus. Through the mist and fog, it is so eerie looking. And as we slowly move toward it, the scope and scale of this catastrophe becomes clear.
We're about 30 meters from the actual wreckage site, and you can see there's still so much twisted debris that's resting upon the Dolly cargo ship. Right beside it, we have a close-up look at the ongoing cleanup efforts, those heavy lift cranes that are moving the pieces of debris onto barges and away from the site.
From this vantage point, it looks like a pile of metal spaghetti. And remember, this is just one area, one part of the cleanup, after the bridge collapsed a little over a week ago, killing 6 construction workers. As we sail around the massive site, there are little things that stand out. See that, poking out of the water? That was a traffic light that used to be on the bridge. And this piece of metal on a barge, it may seem small, but it weighs 300 tons and is about to be hauled away. It looks like metal toothpicks when you compare it to what's left to conquer. And that is when you really realize this cleanup is going to be a while. One encouraging sign is the temporary channel that's opened. Some smaller ships can get in and out of the harbor, but that's about it for now. We make a final pass before heading back to shore, where we find the experts leading this recovery effort to be just as astonished as we are.
I've been doing the Coast Guard missions for almost 28 years. This is the first time I've ever seen anything of this enormity that has closed a port down for this amount of time.
And realistically, there's no timeline, no best guess to be made as to when this will all be hauled away and when life here can get back to normal. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Baltimore.
There is a new escalation tonight in a bitter fight over the building of a new national monument honoring Canada's mission in Afghanistan. Danielle Leblanc takes us through the controversy.
This is where a new national monument to Canada's mission in Afghanistan is supposed to be built. But the project has been mired in controversy for months.
It's a major piece of public art, but there was political interference.
More than 40,000 Canadians served in Afghanistan between 2001 and 2014. 158 military personnel and 7 civilians died. In 2014, the Harper government promised a large, public monument to commemorate the mission. The design was supposed to be selected by a jury, but the process took a twist last June.
It is my honor to announce that the selection design for the national monument to Canada's mission in Afghanistan is from Team Stinson.
A team of Quebec architects won the competition, but Veterans Affairs gave the contract to a group led by Indigenous artist Adrian Stimson. The department said his design was more popular amongst members of the military community in an online poll.
Overwhelmingly, they responded that for them, the Stimson concept really represented for them the loss, the sacrifice, and the courage of the men and women that served in Afghanistan.
The Quebec-based team is refusing to give up and is threatening to take the government to court, saying they should have been awarded the full contract.
We're very concerned because it does create a precedent, a very dangerous precedent for the history of Canada in terms of competition, public art competition, architectural competition, and so on.
Former Supreme Court Justice Louise Arbour worked on the Quebec project as an advisor. She says she recently protested the issue to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in a private phone call.
When you have a procurement process for the expenditure of Canadian taxpayers' money, the expectation is you follow the rules.
Arbour fears the new monument, whenever it is built, will be forever tainted by the controversy. Danielle Leblanc, CBC News, Ottawa.
Schools are grappling with teacher shortages, and it's affecting how kids learn.
Do I combine classes? Do I cancel music for the day?
Why the situation has worsened and what some say needs to change.
Is it beyond intelligence?
Famous musicians are calling on governments to protect them and their music from AI.
It terrifies me that I can sing to you a song that I had absolutely nothing to do with.
What the hell?
A mysterious streak of light baffles Americans.
If you haven't seen it before, it's kind of frightening.
We're back in 2. That is the cleanup now underway in multiple states across the U.S. A powerful storm System caused widespread damage from the south to the Ohio Valley. Kentucky saw some of the worst of it as tornadoes tore off roofs and brought down trees. A state of emergency has been declared across the entire state. And that same ugly system brought heavy rains and strong winds to southern Ontario today as well, soaking Toronto streets, uprooting some trees. The storm could also bring up to 20 centimeters of snow to Ottawa. Well, schools across this country are grappling with a worsening teacher shortage, and the concern is that students are paying the price. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson now with the push for solutions.
Start formulating a plan. And, for
this former principal knows the scramble when a lot of teachers call in sick.
Do I combine classes? Do I cancel music for the day? Will I have to teach a class? Will I have to cancel prep time for teachers?
And the kids feel the effect of it.
When those trusting relationships are negatively impacted, we tend to see some very, concerning things. We see changes in behavior.
The Ontario-based advocacy group People for Education surveyed more than 1,000 principals in the province who painted a grim picture of just how bad the situation is. 24% of elementary and 35% of secondary schools report facing daily shortages in teaching staff. And it's not just in Ontario.
We are having evidence surfacing from across the country.
This education professor says while there were shortages before the pandemic, COVID-19 made the situation worse.
So if there was this group who were close to retirement who sought early retirement, so that reduced the number of available teachers in schools. Equally, teachers who had recently retired, who in a typical situation would return to supply or substitute teach once or twice or 3 times a week, they were not returning into schools during COVID because they didn't want to put themselves at risk.
And we had our meeting with MFA schools yesterday.
Just this February, Newfoundland and Labrador brought together both the teachers and government officials to tackle the problem.
We do have some housing units available in some of our communities for our teachers, and in others we do a housing stipend, which gives them a portion towards their rent.
But even there, the teacher union said in a statement the government's efforts fell short, underfunding key problem areas like packed classrooms and violence in schools. As teacher shortages proves to be an equation few know how to solve. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
The Prime Minister is defending his government's carbon tax policy despite a chorus of critics.
Will you have the meeting now with? I will continue to talk with premiers.
The Current's Matt Galloway sits down with Justin Trudeau to get at the answers. And as NATO prepares to defend itself against Russia, is Canada pulling its weight?
You need to put your money where your mouth is.
The National breaks down the story shaping our world. Next. Oh dear. Police say this is all that's left of a Lamborghini Huracan after a 13-year-old from West Vancouver took it on an ill-fated joyride last week. No one was hurt, but the Huracan, which even used can go for more than $200,000, is worth a lot less now. Hundreds of prominent musicians are pushing back against AI, warning it too easily mimics their work and could even threaten the future of human songwriting. Here's Magda Gabrisalasa on the protections they want.
From the replicated voices of Drake and The Weeknd to sound-alikes of Bad Bunny and The Biebs, we've heard the AI-generated vocal clones and viral hits. They may have pleased fans, but the trend alarms artists like Sheryl Crow.
It terrifies me that I can sing to you a song that I had absolutely nothing to do with, and you'll believe it?
She's now one of 200 performers to co-sign this open letter. Others include Nicki Minaj, R. Kelly's, and Bob Marley's estate. They're asking AI developers, tech companies, and platforms to protect the rights of human artists, flagging concerns over voice, sound, and likeness.
I've spent 25 years honing my touch, my voice, my point of view, my writing sensibilities, and that's now being used to train AI to imitate and replace me.
Without protections, there's also the fear that AI could crowd human artists out.
It's really about kind of coming up with a framework for using it ethically.
Out to prove that it can be done fairly is this music producer set to launch a platform using AI with permission from artists.
I have no interest in removing the human from the process.
In fact, artists like Grimes are finding ways to use AI. She partnered with CreateSafe to make a product that allows fans to use her voice to make music. The company's CEO says everyone needs to be involved.
Well, I think it's important that artists and rights holders are actively engaged in the conversation around legislation.
Tennessee is one state that's been dealing with the issues raised in the open letter. But with the technology's rapid growth, many think music's battle with AI has just begun. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Toronto.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. Well, happy birthday, NATO. How Canada went from shaping it to shortchanging it.
So it hits us politically, it makes us a target.
But first, a prime minister under fire takes the hot seat to talk carbon tax.
You don't think you've lost the narrative on this?
Premiers are lining up against it.
This carbon tax has to go.
We're going to continue telling the truth.
We have your first crack at a wide-ranging interview where Justin Trudeau defends it. Earlier today, the Prime Minister sat down with Matt Galloway, host of CBC's The Current. Here is part of their conversation.
The Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, is with us in studio. Prime Minister, welcome back to The Current.
Good to be back, Matt.
Glad to have you here. It feels a bit like an election campaign. You're zipping across the country here and there, announcing things with big dollar signs attached to them.
Well, we got a big budget coming out, and it's one that's focused on the fact that far too many young people, particularly millennials and Gen Z, don't feel like the system works for them anymore. Even if they have a great job, they are squeezed on housing, they're squeezed on rent, they can't save up for buying a home, they're pressed on groceries, they're seeing a world where climate change is getting worse and worse, they're worried about their future, and government has a role in making sure that there is fairness for them.
Let me talk about that in a minute. I want to begin with the news of the week in some ways, which is still the carbon tax. No matter what else you seem to speak about, people are focused on the price on carbon. We have seen an increase up to, $80 per ton this week. A liter of gas now costs 3 cents more. Do you think you've made a convincing case to Canadians that that increase is a good thing?
Well, I think we can put the case aside for a second and let's talk about the actual policy.
The case matters because people are protesting, wondering whether this actually works for them.
Of course the case matters, but let's make sure we're talking about the same thing. We designed a price on pollution in this country that gives more money back to average Canadians, to 8 out of 10 Canadian families, particularly middle-income and low-income people. So we're not only fighting climate change, we're putting more money in the pockets of folks who need it through the Canada Carbon Rebate. That's the framework we built with all premiers working together back in 2016.
Do you think you've made that case?
I think we're continuing to make that case. It's understandable that at a time of anxiety, of pressure on costs, of affordability concerns, that some politicians are trying to drum up support for themselves by scaring people and by giving misinformation. It's unfortunate, but we're going to continue telling the truth.
So just to be clear, you don't think you've lost the narrative on this? We had a conversation this week with somebody who's a defender of the carbon tax. He explained it. He talked about it as a dumpster fire in terms of how it's rolled out. You don't think you've lost the narrative on this?
Well, I think what we've actually done in the policy, it is helping Canadians. Now, the fact that Conservative premiers or the Conservative leader of the opposition wants to take away those supports for Canadians, that's something that people need to hear, and that's not something that they're talking about. So we're continuing to talk about the fact that they have no plan to fight climate change and no plan to keep supporting people with affordability.
Of course, it's not just Conservative premiers, though. It's Wab Kinew in Manitoba. It's a fellow Liberal in Andrew Furey in Newfoundland and Labrador. What would it take for them to convince you that this is not the right policy?
Well, they have the opportunity to put forward a pricing frame that makes sure that pollution isn't free at the same level for the rest of the country, but in a way that works for their province if they don't want to have the federal backstop. Indeed, a number of provinces started with that. BC and Quebec still have it. Ontario actually only has the carbon tax because Doug Ford got rid of the cap and trade system. So as he rails against the price on pollution and the rebate we're giving to Ontario, he's actually responsible directly for it because he scrapped the Made in Ontario pricing plan they had.
So Andrew Furey has said that he wants a meeting with you to talk about this. He wants the premiers to come together with you. Will you have that meeting?
I had a meeting in 2016
Will
with
you
all
have the
premiers when we built
meeting
this.
now with?
I will continue to talk with premiers, but I will continue to be pressing Andrew and all others on the actual facts that we have a plan to fight climate change that puts more money back in the pockets of Canadians that need it.
One of the reasons why there's great anxiety over this is because, as you've said, there are a lot of people who feel like the system is stacked against them. Young people in particular, they do everything they can. They get a good job, they're working hard, they can't square that circle. You've had 9 years in power. To what extent is your government responsible for the fact that that system is stacked against them?
We got elected in 2015 focused on supporting the middle class, and we brought in a number of measures that made a huge difference. We cut child poverty in half in this country with the Canada Child Benefit. But particularly since the pandemic, we've seen things get so much more difficult for so many people, particularly the young people who've been my motivation since I got into politics 15 years ago. So investing in them, supporting them as renters, making sure there's a pathway for them to buy a home, making sure that they're confident that the world's not going to be on fire when they're adults and raising their own kids, so we fight climate change. These things matter.
Matt Galloway, thank you for coming in. It's nice to have you in here.
Nice to see you, Adrian.
A lot more to that conversation. We just heard, roughly 5 minutes of it. And I gather that a part of it is you were asking him about his likability. If I'm not mistaken, you went so far as to say, why don't people like you?
It's kind of the elephant in the room, right? There are, and he admits this, there is a real visceral reaction to him 9 years into this mandate. You can go across the country and you'll see those stickers, you'll see those signs, and they have digits exposed, they have curse words on them, and they're all directed at him. And so what is that about? You've been around long enough, I've been around long enough, I've never seen that kind of reaction to a prime minister. It's personal. And so I asked him, why don't people like you? And he talked initially about disinformation and the media sphere that we live in where rumors and how he talks about people perhaps are amplified. But we also asked about some of the comments he made during the 2021 campaign when he talked about, as he said, anti-vaxxer mobs and talked about people's racist and misogynist agendas. Does that influence how people think of him? And will this be a liability in terms of whatever he's trying to put forward for the next election? It's a real thing. And I think people have that visceral reaction, and he acknowledges that that exists.
Does he seem to think it's real, or does he dismiss it?
I mean, I think he was surprised when I asked him, why don't people like you? Which suggests, yes, he's thought about it and he's seen those signs. He has to kind of plow through that, I think. But the polling speaks to that. And we didn't get too deep into the polling because it's a year and a half away from an election. But again, this could be an election about a number of different things, but one of them is going to be about Justin Trudeau himself. And I think you have to ask that because it's one of those elephants in the room, in addition to whether people are still listening to him.
Very briefly, his future. I know you also asked him, in a way, does he think about just calling it quits?
He's not going to do that, at least now. He feels like and he seems like he's in campaign mode. He is selling things, he's crossing the country, making these huge promises. We joked about how he had said on Radio Canada that he thinks every day about trying, whether he's going to quit what he called a crazy-making job. He hasn't made that decision yet. He seems to be in it. We'll see how long that lasts. But in the meantime, it's very much a campaign mode, Justin Trudeau.
All right, Matt Galloway, thanks so much.
Adrian, thanks.
And you can listen to Matt Galloway's full interview with the Prime Minister tomorrow on The Current. Now, the government is also under pressure to contribute more to NATO.
You gotta pay your bills.
Why Canada is lagging behind its commitment. Next. As NATO celebrates 75 years, it only drives home how Canada's contribution has waned.
The lone ally that sits in that quadrant of shame.
This country took a lead in NATO's creation. Now its members criticize Canada for spending too little.
The world is a more dangerous place, and then there's Canada sitting there not doing that.
Here's Murray Brewster to break down Canada's rise and fall in the history of NATO and how it might regain its former stature.
NATO, on the eve of its 75th anniversary.
We welcome Sweden into NATO at the critical time for our shared security.
In many ways, it has returned to its roots, facing an old foe, a resurgent Russia threatening nuclear war. In other ways, it is no longer business as usual.
One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, no, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
Right. With the war raging in Ukraine, Europe is nervous. Some countries have reintroduced conscription and are building bomb shelters. Others are talking about it. Many, like Admiral Rob Bauer, the head of NATO's military committee, believe the West overall has entered a pre-war period.
The issue is that Russia has larger ambitions than Ukraine. We know that. And therefore the alliance as a whole needs to be readier because we agreed to see Russia as a threat like the terrorist organizations.
While Europe talks about nations being ready for what comes next, Canada's top military commander, General Wayne Eyre, struggles to get attention on the readiness of his own troops.
But I will tell you that the military that we have today is not the military that we need for the threats that are appearing in the future.
But then there's the issue of how much or how little we spend on defense.
And the 2% target is one that we all agreed to. But we also recognize that there are many ways of evaluating one's contributions to NATO.
Canada, a founding member of NATO, is now often openly chastised over defense spending and seemingly offside from our allies. How did we get here?
Canada, represented by Mr. Lester B. Pearson, gives massive strength to the treaty.
We often hear about Lester B. Pearson and his Nobel Peace Prize legacy of peacekeeping. What doesn't get said, and is often overlooked, is the influence Pearson had in shaping the alliance, pushing it to be more than just a military headquarters, with the inclusion of specific language in NATO's founding charter that also makes it a forum for political and economic dialogue. University of Toronto historian Tim Sale says that was by design.
In the late 1940s, with the possibility of war looming, Canadian officials were not ready to leave that decision for war to others. And so the Canadian experience fighting alongside the Americans and the British in the Second World War had convinced them that sometimes Canadian wisdom should be a part of the conversation.
By the 1970s, détente with Soviet Russia was in the air. A new government and a new generation had grown skeptical of NATO and reduced Canada's contingent in Europe while courting trade with West German Chancellor Helmut Schmidt. Former diplomat Colin Robertson tells us the Prime Minister of the day, Pierre Trudeau, was forced to reconsider.
Helmut Schmidt said to Trudeau, no tanks, no trade. And so at that point, Pierre Trudeau says, okay, this NATO really does have value, and he puts significant monies, and we sometimes forget this.
When you look at it through the long lens of history, the jubilation over the end of the Cold War was short-lived, as NATO and Canada found themselves fighting terror far outside of Europe. Retired General Ray Hanaud was the last Canadian chair of the NATO Military Committee and says the country's currency has often been measured by what it contributes in boots, not spending.
I still support that NATO target, but I don't think it detracts from the respect and the high regard in which Canada and its military is held in the NATO forum, not by any means.
And yet, since NATO is, at Canada's insistence, a political forum, the conversation and the political pressure keeps coming back to money, as it did in 2019, when a question I posed to Donald Trump created this awkward moment.
Mr. President, Canada does not meet the 2% standard. Should it have a plan to meet 2% standard?
Well, we'll put them on a payment plan, you know? We'll put Canada on a payment plan, right? I'm sure the Prime Minister would love that. What are you at? What is your number?
The number we talk about is 70% increase over these past years, including, and for the coming years, we are increasing significantly our defense spending from previous governments that cut it.
Okay. Where are you now in terms of your number?
We're at 135?
1.3.
1.4. We're leading in Latvia. We continue to step up. Canada is a solid, reliable partner.
Engaged and destroyed.
Canada is leading and helping build the NATO brigade in Latvia, but that may no longer be enough to stem criticism from a possible second Trump administration or European allies who feel increasingly threatened by Russia. New figures from NATO, however, highlight the disconnect and show Canada sixth from the bottom in terms of the NATO 2% metric. Canada's former ambassador to NATO is Carrie Buck.
And we're the only ally, the lone ally that sits in that quadrant of shame where we don't either meet the 2% of GDP spent on defense target, and we don't meet the target of 20% of our defense spending on research and development and equipment procurement. So it hits us politically, it makes us a target when the whole alliance is rowing towards this goal of 2% because they recognize that the world is a more dangerous place, and then there's Canada sitting there not doing that.
The last time Canada spent 2% of its GDP on defense was when the Cold War was really frosty in the mid to late 1980s. To reach that goal today, the Parliamentary Budget Office says the government of Canada would need to spend an additional $18.2 billion annually, bringing the defense budget to $64 billion or more. So, has Canada's insistence on NATO being a political forum come back to bite us?
We won't get kicked out of NATO, but when you make a point at the North Atlantic Council table, your voice carries less weight because you need to put your money where your mouth is.
It's not like the federal government doesn't understand the argument. Chrystia Freeland put it this way when she was foreign minister back in 2017.
To rely solely on the U.S. security umbrella would make us a client state. And although we have an incredibly good relationship with our American friends and neighbors, such a dependence would not be in Canada's interest. That is why doing our fair share is clearly necessary.
Neither the Liberals nor the Conservatives have committed to a clear plan to meet NATO's goal, saying Canada will work towards the 2% target. Fuzzy language that stands in contrast to the words and deeds of 75 years ago.
Murray, what's your sense of what the government is doing to address that criticism, to restore its standing within NATO?
Well, it depends upon who you talk to, Adrian. There are some here in Ottawa who say everything's just fine. But a substantive answer to the question and concerns might come, and I say might, in a rewritten defense policy, which was urgently ordered 2 years ago after Russia's full invasion of Ukraine. It has been held up, we're told, mostly because of the enormous cost of re-equipping the forces, but it's really unclear as to how far the government is prepared to go.
All right, Murray Brewster in Ottawa, thank you for staying on this.
You're welcome.
Next, an oh-so-strange streak of light that caught California residents by surprise.
If you haven't seen it before, it's kind of frightening.
We'll tell you where it came from in our moment. Well, imagine seeing that when you look up into the night sky. This dazzling streak of light left some California residents scratching their heads as to what on earth, as it were, it could be. So it's not a meteor, it's not a shooting star, it is much slower, which gave those who saw it a chance to marvel at its beauty. And tonight we uncover the mystery behind the celestial sight in our moment.
What the hell? At about 1:40 a.m. on Tuesday morning, Angelinos who were out late partying, I guess, looked up in the sky and saw this trail of flaming debris, which if you haven't seen it before is kind of frightening. So what it was a spare room on the Chinese spaceship Shenzhou 15 that carried astronauts back and forth to the Chinese space station last year. They have a little cabin that they squeeze themselves into, but that's really cramped, and so they have a hatch. They can float up into this extra room to kind of stretch a bit. Right, and it's where the toilet is, by the way. But that room is too big to bring back to Earth, and so just before they land, they jettison it, and it's been floating around the Earth ever since. It's now trying to plow through the upper atmosphere. It heats up, starts to glow, and it breaks up into chunks. We knew it was coming down, but we didn't know exactly when. And of course, it caused quite a lot of alarm.
And you know, it is too slow to be a meteor. It's breaking up into chunks, so it's not a plane. It has been zipping around for quite a while, and it seems it will keep doing that until it heats up and sort of melts away, and likely isn't going to fall on anyone's head. For all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app. Subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.